Kenya. A month here feels like forever, but even a lifetime wouldn't do it justice. From the chaos of Nairobi to the raw beauty of safaris, the lakeside rhythms of Kisumu, and the tropical coast of Mombasa. This was one of the most eye-opening months of my life. What's up guys, I'm Eric with Foreign Option, and this channel is about my journey as an expat and all the lessons and learnings I can give to hopefully help other guys who aspire to live abroad, whether that's full-time or part-time or just short-time. I think that there's a lot of lifestyle benefits to living abroad. I got to Nairobi with a direct flight from Kampala, Uganda to Nairobi, Kenya. Highly recommend using Uber once you arrive.
Beautiful Nairobi, Kenya.
And then I grabbed some cash at the airport ATM and headed to Westlands Road in the Westlands. I really like that area close to the GTC mall that has a grocery store and some convenient restaurants, but also it's walking distance to some of the best malls in Nairobi, Sarit and Westgate. I came with pretty loose plans for Kenya, but I knew I was going to be bouncing around quite a bit around the country, different cities.
Alright, so I just checked into my Airbnb.
So I wanted to establish a home base there in Nairobi, which costs more, and I don't usually do that in countries, but I wanted to get a sense of security, get my bearings, and have a good internet connection and just kind of feel like home, with this being my first experience in Kenya. And coming from Southeast Asia, I'm used to mall cultures, going and hanging out at the mall on an everyday basis. And yes, there are busy malls in Kenya, but not quite the same levels as you would see in Southeast Asia, where most people go to malls every day. In Nairobi, I did a tour of downtown. I visited the convention center, some of the hottest local hotspots, and visited some rooftop bars, set up a few dates, which I'll cover later in the video, and ate some delicious food. Now there's a lot to do in Nairobi, and I think on my next trip I'd consider staying downtown rather than in the Westlands. I really like the Westlands, but just to get a new perspective, because I found myself actually going downtown quite a lot, whether it be to play tennis or visit the convention center. Let me know in the comments if you have any experience actually staying in downtown Nairobi. The downside is that I don't think it's as safe, but I'm more of a, I'm out and about during the day and I'm inside at night. I'm not a night owl. But after setting up my Airbnb in Nairobi and hanging out for about a week, the first thing I did was launch on a breathtaking safari. A pleasant surprise was that there was many affordable safaris departing from Nairobi. I thought that they would be like $5,000 or $10,000, but there's many options around $1,000 for 4 days and 3 nights. And I actually overpaid for my safari. I paid $1,500, and then I actually learned that what I had done was book through a third party who basically just charged an extra $500 service fee for last minute booking. So I recommend booking your safari on site, meaning in Kenya, either directly from their website or by walking into the various stores and booking in person. And my safari would have only been $1,000 if I had done that. And that $1,000 includes everything besides tipping. It includes, the car, the gasoline, all of your food and hotels, camp. It doesn't include souvenirs or, extra snacks and things you might want. But also there are day trip safaris coming out of Nairobi, but I highly recommend you just go to the Maasai Mara if you want to get the real experience and see all the best animals. And you're expected to tip on the safari. Someone beforehand told me the rule of thumb is $10 per day. So my 4-day safari, I tipped $40, and he gave me a smile and seemed pleased with that amount. Now the Maasai Mara National Reserve actually extends all the way to the Serengeti. It connects with it in Tanzania. And you'll hear about the big 5 mentioned a lot, which actually consists of 5 animals: the lion, the leopard, the elephant, the rhinoceros, and the buffalo. And the only one I didn't end up seeing was the leopard, although someone in my truck saw one, but by the time I could get a decent view, it was already gone. It was nature in its rawest, most unforgettable form. Seeing all these animals, I saw mongoose, crocodiles, hippos, rhinos, zebras, cheetahs, hyenas, mini versions of gazelles and antelope, and about 100 other kind of animals. My favorite, of course, was seeing the lions feasting. There was one that was really giving me a hard death stare. By the way, these are a mix of male and female adolescents. And when I first heard I was staying in a tent, I was intrigued by what exactly do you mean by a tent? And it turned out to be the nicest tent I've ever been in, almost like a hotel room. It gets nice and cool at night. Also has a bathroom, a nice bed, and a coffee maker. Now the interesting thing is that there is no barrier from the park to the tent. Like, there isn't this big fence that keeps all the animals out, right? Therefore, they said, don't go outside your tent in the middle of the night. Just don't. Occasionally, there are some nocturnal predators, some lions, some hyenas that make their way over to the camp. And you can hear all kind of crazy animals making noises during the middle of the night. Now, I don't know if this is a once-in-a-lifetime type trip for me. I think once you go, you kind of get that craving to go on another safari again, so I'll probably end up going again. And on the last day, I actually got to hang out with the notorious Maasai warrior tribe for a few hours, doing a local village tour, and they actually gave me a Maasai warrior nickname. They call me the Safari Snack. And guys, please drop a comment. Is Kenya a country that you're interested in visiting? Or, if you do, will you end up taking a safari as well? Now, after my safari ended, I felt like a changed man, full of appreciation and bittersweetness that it had come to an end. Nevertheless, we made our way back to Nairobi, where I recovered for 5 days before departing for an off-the-beaten-path trip to Kisumu. Kisumu is not known for its tourism much, but it's on the shores of the famous Lake Victoria, widely known for its fishing industry. And I like getting off the beaten path, and although Kisumu isn't what I'd consider to be a province area, it's actually Kenya's third largest city, you just don't see as many Westerners out there. And most of the Westerners I did see there, which wasn't many, were there on mission trips from their American churches. Now, my favorite part of this trip, other than connecting with the local tennis community, was visiting the Dunga hideout. I really wanted to take in Lake Victoria, and this local hotspot restaurant sits right on the shores, offering an opportunity to do some dancing or relax on a hammock and enjoy some refreshments. I stayed at the Imperial Express Hotel and had a pleasant stay there for a 3-star value hotel. Will I ever go back to Kisumu? Well, I enjoyed it there, but probably not unless I had a specific reason to. I certainly don't regret visiting there because I always like going and enjoying places where most others don't go. So after my 4 days in Kisumu, I actually returned back to Nairobi to recover for a few days before heading to the oldest city in Kenya, Mombasa, a coastal city with a history dating back to at least the 12th century and was Kenya's first capital. To get to Mombasa, I took the modern train from Nairobi to Mombasa, which was affordable. They advertised it like it was some amazing train ride, so I went ahead and bought a first-class ticket for about $30, and it lasted about 5 hours. And the trip was good, it was fine, but I wouldn't really consider it an amazing first-class experience. Once you arrive to Mombasa, the city itself, it seems a little grimy, and I was actually told by my driver, to be careful with walking around with your possessions and, having your iPhone out. But once you make it to the beach, it's simply breathtaking in Mombasa. I stayed in the Nile area, specifically the La Fattoria Resort, which had a great vibe and was good food and good value for the price. I really want to visit the Mombasa Tusks, which are meant to be the letter M, standing for Mombasa, and they look like big elephant tusks. And I also got to visit the famous Fort Jesus, which is actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which is special because it's a fusion, they said, of European and Arab and African history into one iconic coastal fortress. And for centuries, it stood at the heart of Mombasa trade, conflict, and cultural exchanges. One extra note is I got to play tennis at the Severin Sea Lodge, and after seeing it, I decided that next time, if my budget allows it, I want to stay at the Severin Sea Lodge because it was that awesome. And overall, I enjoyed Mombasa so much that I think at my next trip to Kenya, I'll spend most of my time there. Okay, dating. Let's jump into dating since a lot of guys want to know about that. I get asked a lot of questions about dating. And certainly in Kenya, I felt like a catch. It's easy to make matches on the dating apps, and I recommend using AfroIntroductions. And it was my favorite app actually for the entire continent of Africa. And it's really good, especially if you're going to be bouncing around to multiple countries. And I got over 1,000 messages a week on AfroIntroductions while I was there. I'll put a link to it in the description. I also tried Badu and Bumble, but prefer AfroIntroductions. Now, in person, even when walking in the malls, and I got plenty of looks, actually got a woman's phone number who was cutting my hair. She initiated the interaction and suggested that we get together for a coffee later. Now, Nairobi specifically has a very vibrant nightlife lifestyle, was easy to schedule dates. Matches didn't flake. They were eager to meet up. I like to schedule them at the shopping malls for a coffee, have a conversation, and then if it goes well, we can move over to a restaurant and have dinner. I really gravitated towards the top floor at the shopping mall called Sarit. It's in the Westlands, and then on the top there's a food court which has a lot of options for food and drinks. Some sports were on TV. It has a chill vibe where there's just plenty of chairs and tables to sit around, and there's really good people watching. But the downside for me dating in Kenya, specifically Nairobi, is that I kept running into the scenario of like, hey, let's meet at 11:30 p.m. tonight at the club. And no, I mean, don't get me wrong, I can dance. I mean, not really, but I know how to at least have fun. But for me, at 11 p.m. or midnight is when things start. And like I'm an early bird. Like I start yawning by 9 p.m., right? And I'm just saying that Kenyan women, they love to go out late. They love to go to the club and dance and party. And I think if you're into that, you'll fit in very well there. Let's talk about what I liked and what I didn't like, the pros and cons from my experience. And guys, please let me know in the comments what you think are the pros and cons of Kenya. For the pros, for number one, I would say there's a lot of mutual respect between me and locals, and I enjoyed that, which can be quite different. I'm from the United States. I grew up in the southern part of the United States, and where there is sometimes a lot of tension. And I try to treat everyone the same, and I treat them based on their merit and specifically their behavior. And I found that I got along very well with Kenyans because of that mutual respect. And Kenyan culture does feel like a Western Christian culture because of its history. And so culturally, I actually found it easier to adapt there than some other places I've traveled to, like Turkey or Egypt or even countries in Southeast Asia. And I would say that when I go back, I'll probably spend more time in Mombasa. I think if you like to club and party, then Nairobi is probably the best place for you. Extremely vibrant nightlife there. And the other thing I appreciate is I think culturally people, including women, are more forward, especially with dating. And a woman actually advised me to be forward with my intentions and that they can handle whatever it is, the truth. They just don't like lies. So I had a Kenyan woman tell me, be forward, don't beat around the bush or be shy, and don't lie. So for the cons, 1 month in Kenya, to me, it felt like enough. I kept a pretty tight schedule and ended up, at 1 month, had the time of my life, but was a little bit burned out, and the timing was right to leave. Another con is, there is this invisible barrier that you just can't shake off, because I do stick out a lot. And at times, especially in Nairobi, on just a small walk, I might have 5 people approach me, ask for money. Also, wherever you go, whether that's bus terminals or taxis or museums, shopping malls, if you look like me, you're seen as a walking dollar sign, meaning there's some foreign taxing, some minor annoyances. I remember when I was going into Sarit shopping mall, there's a security check where you have to put your phone and wallet in a little bin and walk through the metal detector. And that security guard there actually asked me if I could give him money, which is kind of annoying, especially from a security as you're walking in the mall. But you just politely say no. The less words you give, the better. You don't have to defend yourself. Just like, no thanks, and just keep going.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.